Hey, MCE crew. In the past few episodes, we talked a lot about how banks are not necessarily the best places to keep your money. We've talked about the anemic rate of return on savings products like savings accounts and CDs. We showed you the math about how long it will take for your money to double at those paltry interest rates, okay, rates of return. We've actually done these things. We've also talked about how we've seen it in Canada, the UK's talking about it, America did it in terms of ending your access to your money or your income if you don't play ball in certain ways. So let's take a look at another aspect of banking in the institution of banking and how precarious that can be, especially in light of the fact that we are spending trillions here in America like nobody's business. And I maintain that our currency, the US dollar, will cease to be the world's reserve currency by the early 2030s. Let's take a look at what a bank run really looks like as we examine what is going on in Russia right now at in the wake of the prospect of them being cut off from the SWIFT system, which is an electronic communication system between banks. Take a look at this. Look at these people lined up to get money, rubles, out. Well, actually, in this case, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get foreign currencies, okay? Because the ruble is not worth, might not be worth much come Monday morning. Now, I'm recording this on Sunday. You're seeing it on Monday afternoon at the earliest. In his brief assessment on the impact exclusion from the SWIFT system would have on Ukrainian banks, hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman said that, quote, once a bank can't transfer or receive funds from other banks, its solvency can be at risk. If I were Russian, I would take my money out now. Bank runs could begin in Russia on Monday. Actually, they've already started. Look at all these people, again, lined up to get their money out of the banks. Now, what have we talked about in recent history here on this channel? We've talked about getting your money into other vehicles out of the banks. You don't think we can see this in the United States of America? Tell you a quick story. One time we had a hurricane here. This was back in 2002. We had first moved into this property, and we were kind of unprepared for, the lack of infrastructure out here where we live, especially at that time. That hurricane came through and it knocked out electricity for a prolonged amount of time. Anyway, me and a neighbor, we went into the city because they were giving out dry ice. So we traveled from here to go to the city. BG&E, our electrical provider, was giving out dry ice. And when we got there, man, that line was like a half a mile long. And they had 2 tractor trailers set up giving out dry ice. You just get it and go, okay? And as we're standing in that line, and I got to admit, it was moving. But as we're standing in that line, my buddy said, hey, can you imagine if this was the 5th day? Now, what he meant by that is while we were there, everything was cool. Everybody was, pretty chill. But he said, can you imagine if this was the 5th day and they were handing out dry ice? Can you imagine if we got close to the beginning and they ran out? Okay, chaos would ensue. Now, that's dry ice. What do you think would happen over a prolonged period of time if people were not able to get access to their money? Okay, it wouldn't be pretty. So let's go on here and delve into how this looks for, in this case, the Russian community when they may not be able to access their money. Keep in mind, the Russian ruble is the second oldest currency on the earth today, followed by the British pound sterling. So Ackman goes on, they go on to say, we've seen scenes across Russia reminiscent of a bank run as locals line up at cash machines around the country to withdraw foreign currency amid growing fears the ruble could collapse when it resumes trading on Monday. Now, if it has collapsed, you already know about it, and we'll do another video on it examining that in detail. I've stood in lines for an hour, but foreign currency is gone everywhere, just rubles, said Vladimir, a 28-year-old programmer who declined to give his last name while waiting in a long line at an ATM in a Moscow shopping mall. He says, I got a late start because I didn't think this was possible. I'm in shock. All right, so you might be asking yourself, well, these ATMs give out foreign currencies? Yes, they do. And that's something that we're kind of unfamiliar with here in America because we enjoy the world's reserve currency. We don't need to give foreign currencies out of an ATM. We already got the major currency of the planet just by virtue of being here in this country. There are indications that the ruble will fall sharply when trading starts on Monday. We already went into that. I can't see a scenario where it doesn't get hammered, said Paul McNamara, a fund manager at GAM Investments. I don't expect effective intervention in terms of pricing, but in terms of reducing legal grounds to sell rubles. The rush for foreign currency came despite Bloomberg reporting that some lenders selling dollars at more than a third higher than the market's close on Friday and well past the psychologically important level of 100 rubles per dollar that many economists said would trigger an interest rate hike by the Bank of Russia, their central bank. So we see confidence being lost here as these Russians are dealing with, these sanctions. And also, we got other types of sanctions going to affect the European Union closing airspace to Aeroflot, which is the Russian air carrier, national air carrier, and Apple, cutting them off from the Apple Pay platform. Later on Saturday, the U.S. and European Union agreed to kick some Russian banks out of the SWIFT financial messaging system and freeze the central bank's reserves. So, again, let's go back to SWIFT real quick. Just, for expediency's sake, think about it as an internet of banking, a global internet of banking. Now, look, I'm old enough to remember when we didn't even know what the hell the internet was, and you could get through a day quite productively without ever having seen a computer, okay? But that is not the case today. And these banks globally rely on the interchange of information in order to transact. If they're cutting these banks off, these Russian banks off, that's going to be impossible for them to do efficiently, okay, in this interconnected world. Furthermore, they're saying that they're going to freeze the Russian central bank's reserves. Now, let me say this, and we did a video. Russia does have a lot of gold, okay, and they have a debt situation that is much more under control than we have here in the United States, but ours is offset again by being the world's reserve currency. So they might be able to withstand this a lot longer than we anticipate. On Sunday, the EU announced it would close off its airspace to Russian carriers, which could make it difficult to physically transport cash into the country. So they're saying, okay, we're going to cut you off at SWIFT, the internet system for banking. And if you try to, carry cash into the country and do it that way, we're going to make it difficult to damn near impossible for you to do that. The central bank said last week it was increasing supplies of cash to ATMs to meet the demand and issued another statement Sunday vowing to provide banks, quote, uninterrupted, unquote, supplies of rubles. The release made no mention of possible foreign currency support or the sanctions. Russia last faced a major run on cash in 2014 when plunging oil prices in the wake of Western sanctions triggered a crash in the exchange rate. Sberbank, Russia's biggest bank, ran through 1.3 trillion rubles, or $16 billion, in a single week. The situation is completely unstable, and sanctions and restrictions on the central bank can only get worse, said Alexandria Suslina, a budget specialist at the Moscow-based economic expert group. Quote, there's already a bit of a rush to take money out of ATMs, but no cash machine is designed for the lines that will appear at sanctioned banks. That's what I was saying with the dry ice analogy. Look at all those people that were lined up. Come on, man. The guy at the back of that line knows damn well that there's not going to be anything in that ATM by the time he gets up there, okay? Meanwhile, on Sunday, the Russian central bank said it would resume purchases of gold and precious metals from the domestic market starting Monday, although it wasn't immediately clear who the sanctioned central bank would buy gold from. Furthermore, in light of the upcoming liquidity scramble, it is more likely that Russia will need to start selling some of its gold reserves, which, according to Credit Suisse calculations, amounts to a little under $150 billion. Really not a lot if you're talking about a nation. Who are they going to buy the gold from? We already talked about how China doesn't sell any of its gold. All the gold that it mines anywhere in the world goes right back to Beijing or some other undisclosed location within China, and they do not sell. And at this point, with them watching what's going on with Russia, they're going to be even less apt to get rid of their assets because they know that if they move on Taiwan, China is sitting back just absorbing all of this and saying, you know, this is probably the way it's going to kind of play out when, not if, we go into Taiwan. I could be wrong here, but I think the best time to make a move on Taiwan, if I were Xi over in China, I would say, hey, this guy Biden, if we go into Taiwan now, he's dealing with the economic situation in America. He's dealing with Russia. He'd be completely, Biden is completely overwhelmed when you put oatmeal and maybe a banana on his plate. His mind is just, boom, overloaded. So God knows, dealing with two major world powers and their territorial ambitions would be enough to just short circuit him altogether. So they're watching this. And from an asset standpoint, I think China's going to be far less apt to give up any gold or other precious metals and probably much more enthusiastic about, buying them and storing them. Okay. All right, guys. So that's all I have for now. But this is a real world example of the precarious state of a bank. All right. These people are lined up around the block, literally trying to get some money. You don't want to be in that position. Okay. We talked about what you do. I sound like a broken record, and it's fine. Gold, silver, figure out what allocation percentage-wise is best for your portfolio. All right. Have some instruments that are not in a bank. So remember, there are other financial institutions besides banks. Banks are designed for you to borrow money from and for you to quickly move money around to, say, satisfy creditors. Okay. They're not designed for you to put money into a deposit account and make money. No, if you want to make money with a bank, what you need to do is research investing in a bank. Okay. That's the way you make money. Or you start your own bank. And we've talked about how to do that with what? An insurance policy. Okay. A properly structured permanent life insurance policy. That's one way. That's the first step to you starting your own bank. Banking is a solid way to make money. But when you subject yourself to playing along with that depository account structure and process, you're not making any money. You're just giving the bank the ability to loan money based on fractional interest. Okay, we've talked about that before. Fractional interest is where the Fed says, or the Federal Reserve Bank says, as an example, for every $100 you take in bank, you can loan 10 times that. Meanwhile, the bank takes your money, your $100, multiplies it by fractional interest 10, is able to lend out $1,000, and they're able, if it's on a credit card, to charge 12, 13, 14%. Okay? So sure, they have no problem giving you 0.6%. Okay? and a dumb lollipop as you come into the door. You are what you eat. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. To learn more about how you can achieve financial independence, check out these videos we recently posted on the Money Changes Everything channel.